Hello there ladies and gentlemen, I'm Paul TX141 Walsh, welcoming you to today's all new World of Warships gameplay on our channel. In this episode we shall be setting sail on our Tier 5 Russian cruiser known as the Kirov. We are alone today on the Big Race map as part of a zone game type. For the uninitiated, zone is the game type whereby there is a single capture point on the map which both teams can contest after 2 minutes have expired from the start of the game. It is a much larger zone than you are typically used to in domination or standard battle game types, and the emphasis is on drawing ships into the centre of the map for them to capture it, usually starting off with the destroyers and then expanding to cruisers and battleships towards the end of the game. The capture rate on this zone is rather high, akin to that of a domination capture zone, more so than that of a standard battle capture zone. But, as we can see, we've spawned at the tip of the sword in the northeastern side of the map. Our team spawning on the northwestern corner, and by using the minimap you can see that the top of the minimap is the north and the right hand side is the east. Now we set sail in this tier 5 match by starting off a little bit more slowly than we may be used to. The top speed of the Kirov is well in excess of 30 knots and we could rush forward, but being at the tip of the spear and having rather low armour, that means we are going to be seen by our opponents well before they see us, as we're going up against tier 3 and tier 4 cruisers, whereby their concealment ranges are superior to ours, with our concealment being 14.2 kilometres. We now switch to half speed and sure enough we are soon detected. We're not sure by what yet, but we're assuming it will probably be a Kolberg or the Murmansk on the enemy team. We begin to make our way forward, changing direction as we do, as we're expecting shells to be inbound very shortly, as our opponents are probably calculated, and here comes the incoming fire. It starts off with a Murmansk, and we've already called our initial turn correct as the Murmansk shoots a little bit too far off of us. We are loading armour piercing, we'll come onto that shortly, and the Kolberg is now opening up, the one that was originally spotting us, or at least it would seem. We open fire with our 2 forward guns at this point, and being aware of the fact that Kirov has 3x3 180mm gun turrets, we overpenetrate the Kolberg with 2 shots. But we're going to continue with armour piercing anyway, as if we do manage to hit and strike the citadels, we will do a phenomenal amount of damage, something the Kirov is known for. Its ability, upon hitting with armour piercing to a citadel of an enemy ship, to pick up 4,100 damage per hit. And we again pick up overpenetrations on the Kolberg and knock out one of their turrets. We overpenetrate again with additional 3 shells it would seem, only doing a further 1,700. The Murmansk at this point tries to charge behind land, and with our rear turret burst, we manage to pick up a citadel here, knocking off 5,000 of their health with the 2 shots that hit. The second portion of our burst fell a little bit short unfortunately. If it had been a little bit higher, that would have been a citadel hit once more we would suppose. But now we switch our focus back to the enemy Kolberg, who seems to be stationary, opening up with all of our guns here. And this is beautiful. We pick up a citadel hit along with our 5 hits, doing 8,000 damage and pretty much knocking the Kolberg out of the game. We now begin to make our way westwards, very gradually at this point, changing up our location and being unpredictable. A set of shots goes out on the Murmansk. Unfortunately we aim a little bit too low, and they happened to beach their ship at that point, so it was rather unfortunate we could not exploit that to the maximum. And we're going to try and make up for that with our next burst with all of our guns loaded, after our just over 14-second reload time. Opening up, we're going to see that we scored some hits, but unfortunately we did not aim enough to the left to counter the fact that Murmansk was reversing, and as a result we only managed to overpenetrate on their bow. We cut our speed here to make sure we do not crash into the side of our Myogi and drain a little bit of health from our ship and their ship. And as the Murmansk continues to reverse around and try to break away, we switch our attention to the Aziaslav, who has appeared and is now using their smoke to hide themselves. You're probably wondering why did we throw a load of armour piercing at them? Well, it is just to try and dissuade them and make them go away, as their torpedo range is no more than 5 kilometres if I remember correctly, so we want to make sure they do not get close enough to our friendly Myogi. Now we are using the stock hull for the Kirov here, and we do have a reconnaissance plane extending our range out to 19.6 kilometres, so we decided to fire some speculative shots at the enemy Langley that was spotted by the friendly fighters on our team. As we're going to see, we get a rather nice result. Right at the tip of our range, and we pick up 2 hits, one of them being a citadel hit doing 5,000 damage. Rather fortunate there, and I was rather surprised to pick that up, and I'm sure the enemy Langley was quite shocked as well at the time. But we must now switch our attention elsewhere, and we're coming up on Destroyer Alley, the name given to the western side of this map, typically because it is where the destroyers on both teams will go and try to duke it out at the start of the game, whereby the closer range engagements make it ideal for destroyers to drop their torpedoes, especially on unsuspecting battleships and cruisers who make their way down there. Now we're trying to find a shot here on the enemy Furitaka, but unfortunately their angling means if we fire armor piercing we have a very high chance of ricocheting. So we continue to look around and notice the Azai slab gradually coming up behind us. If the Furitaka does not change stance, we will switch to the Azai slab as demonstrated here. We have armor piercing loaded, but we might as well do some damage and then load high explosive, making the most of what we have. We pick up 1600 damage with our 4 hits, all being over penetrations, whereby, for those unaware, if you do over penetrate an enemy foe using armor piercing, you will do a tenth of your citadel maximum damage. So 4100 divided by 10 is 410. But here firing high explosive we pick up 5 hits and do 4100 damage to the Azai slab and pretty much wreck them. To the point where they will need to use their damage control repair party consumable if they have it available, and we've pretty much knocked them out of the game. So let's finish them off. That's a kill. Now we make sure not to crash into the torpedoes of our friendly Gnevny at this point, and Aminakazi starts to come up. Now we're not too focused on them, they're throwing some rather speculative torps at us at this point, and we can dodge those if needs be, as our recon plane makes their way home. We are getting ready to hit the enemy Furitaka. We are hoping they will go for a broadside on us, as we are starting to angle away. The torpedoes are starting to run out of range we hope, and we open fire on the Furitaka. We get set on fire, not sure who by, and we pick up a citadel hit on the Furitaka as they turn towards us. And we have some torpedoes coming from an enemy Izokazi here, we are just going to sail away from them, and get some distance on our foes, as we now have the Furitaka, 2 enemy destroyers, and potentially a Wyoming taking shots at us, as the Furitaka throws their shots wide and continues to broadside. We throw the rear burst of our turret towards the Furitaka, aiming just a little bit too high, over penetrating the overall superstructure on their ship, not the hull. Rather unfortunate as we had a clean shot, and they're now turning away from us, meaning we have squandered that as they knock out one of our friendly destroyers sailing past them. Now we're continuing to make our way away at this point, travelling only at half speed as we do not want to get too far from the objective. We can see at the moment both teams are still contesting it. We have our Miyogi right in the centre, but soon that will change. The Furitaka appears to be turning, so we fire off a speculative shot here, trying to go for the citadel once again, but then they turn back, so our shots are going to land down the centre of the ship. Ricocheting for the most part, but getting I think 1 penetration there for 1103 damage. Pardon me, or potentially 2 penetrations. So we fire off another burst here, high explosive this time, in order to try and do some damage before the Furitaka gets behind land. They fire some shots our way as well, and we get a rather nice hit for 2300 damage, setting them on fire and incapacitating their steering. Now whether they fix that using the damage control party repair consumable, it doesn't matter, we've done the damage and we've made them use up their resources. Now at the maximum point of our range here we open fire on the enemy Wyoming, knowing that their range is only 14.1 kilometers at most, meaning we can outrange them quite easily, and high explosive will do a lot of damage. Alternatively, we used armor piercing and we managed to get 1 penetration out of it. We aim again at the enemy Furitaka, and we're just hoping we can citadel them at this range. But as we can see, we're not the most versed player in arranging our shots with the Kirov's main guns, especially at these distances, meaning that we are going to miss. We try once more here. We could be going for the Minakazi, but we are assuming that our Gnevny will bring them down, thanks to the power of their 130mm main guns. Now look at the objective in the top centre of your screen, as we miss the Furitaka. Keep in mind how rapidly that is filling up for the enemy team. I'm quite aware of this at the moment, so I decide to change my attention towards the enemy Wyoming, who is just coming in range at this point. I notice because they're just coming in range, I can probably get off 1 more burst if I want to on the enemy Furitaka. So I decide to start turning around, I should say, in the correct English. I fire off 1 last burst on the enemy Furitaka, knowing that our Langley and Gnevny are going to work together to knock them out, hopefully. With the shells that we have fired, we pick up 1 hit and over penetration. The Minakazi's pretty much gone, and the torpedo bombers, the Langley, will knock out the Furitaka. We fire off a last burst, just in case they don't finish it off. And this means we've got just enough time now to hit the Wyoming, and we are well in range to do so quite accurately. So we finish off loading our frontal guns, and we fire off in order to save the game. Hoping they hit, of course. Waiting for it. We've denied them the victory for the time being, picking up 3 defends. Now we load high explosive at this point to make sure that when we hit our foes we will do damage, and the Mizokazi appears meaning that high explosive will tear them to pieces if it hits directly. Fingers crossed. Okay, so we aimed a little bit too far forward, but we did hit their bow, to hit them for 1 shell, which brought us another 3 defend flags. Alternatively, we may have come close with 2 of our high explosive shells doing some side damage, perhaps to some modules, picking up those 3 defends. I'm not entirely sure how the mechanics work there. But, continuing on, we continue to have high explosive loaded here, as we try to go for a reset once again on the Wyoming, who is continuing to pick up some capture points. The Izokazi at this point is drifting away from the capture circle, trying to go head to head with our Gnevny, who is right at the tip of the edge of the northern side of the map. We take some hits on the enemy Wyoming, who is hidden in the smoke screen of the Izokazi, and we decide to use our repair tool here to get our engine back in play. We want to get back inside the cap zone now to prevent the capture point from going any further for the enemy team so we can contest it. Now keep in mind the Izokazi has left the capture point. The enemy Wyoming at the back of the map, because they have 2, is outside of it, and so are the rest of the enemy ships. The only thing left in the capture point is the Wyoming we are engaging head to head, who is still firing high explosive at us. We are rather fortunate. If that had been armour piercing, we could have been citadeled. But we set the Wyoming on fire in 2 locations, and we make our way forward with our engine knocked out completely. And we are now inside the cap, and the Wyoming we have been engaging has drifted out of it. So we're just going to sit here. Our engine has been knocked out, but this is perfect because we are hidden behind an island, meaning that our opponents, who are all heading north, will not be able to hit us. And they are all turning their attention, or have finished turning their attention towards our friendly Gnevny, and now we just need to sit here. Because the enemy team overextended out to the north of the map, and whilst our team does depend on me right now, they haven't got much to worry about at this point. Because as you are going to see, the enemy carriers are still rearming and making their way over with another set of torpedo bombers. And pardon me, I should say the enemy carrier. And the only fighter here is just spotting us as we pick up another plane shot down. The torpedo bombers are making their way in, but no enemy ships up north have been able to turn around. Especially with the slow steering of the Wyoming compared to our own ship, this means that we can just sit in the cap at this point and pick up what is going to be quite an easy solo warrior medal as we beat a 1v5 by just capturing the objective. Time to take a look at the post-game stats. Well, that probably wasn't the result you were expecting when watching this video, was it? And I certainly did not expect this at the time of playing. But we picked up the win for our team, receiving 178,352 silver credits and 1,676 experience. We also picked up the Solo Warrior Award for standing alone against 4 or more enemies and winning the battle. We stood alone against 5 technically, albeit for a very short period of time. In terms of the ribbons we picked up for our battle performance, we picked up 70 target hits, 2 planes shot down, 3 incapacitations, 1 ship destroyed, 6 fires set, 4 citadel hits, 11 base defends and 1 base captured. And in total we did 68,789 damage, and I am sure we could have pushed that a lot closer to 100,000 damage, if not more, if we'd been a little bit more accurate with our shots, something I definitely need to work on in the Kirov, as I am a predominantly destroyer player. And by taking a look at the team scores, we can see how unexceptional our performance really was. We came first on our team by experience earned, picking up 1,117 base experience, only 207 more than the second place player on our team who was in their Gnevny. Looking at our detailed report, we can see how we dealt a variety of damage over a number of enemy ships as we transitioned from the eastern side to the western side of the map and then made our way towards the centre to pick up the cap and therefore win the game for our team. We managed to hit a tally of 7 ships, destroying 1 and damaging 6 others, and we also destroyed 2 enemy aircraft, 1 being a fighter and 1 being a dive bomber, both from the Langley. In terms of the damage we dealt a tally of 68,789, with 74 hits from our main battery, scoring 51,614 of this damage. 27 of those shells were high explosive, dealing 13,857 base damage, and the other 47 were the armour piercing shells available to us, dealing 37,757 damage. The rest of our damage, the other 17,175, came from the 6 fires that we set, showing the great overall fire potential of the Kirov when loaded high explosive. One last item to note is how fortunate we were in the damage we received. We only took 10,233 damage, and this was from primarily high explosive shells, the other small contribution of 154 being from fires, whilst the main 10,079 being from 14 high explosive shells that were instant on us. In particular, if the enemy Wyoming had been loaded in armour piercing, it would have been very likely in that broadside we presented to them, we would have been citadeled at least once and practically knocked out of the game. As for the uninitiated, the Kirov has rather low armour, meaning that this is a ship that can do a lot of damage, but is quite the glass cannon when it takes damage in return. And finally, coming on to our credits and XP, we can see that we came away with a total of 166,867 silver credits, and we picked up 1,676 experience thanks to the usage of a premium account. We also managed to pick up another skill point for our commander. So in conclusion then, what have we learnt from today? Well, hopefully I've firstly gone a small way in demonstrating the potency of the Kirov as a tier 5 Russian cruiser in World of Warships. But more importantly, hopefully we have demonstrated today that there is always more than one way of winning a given match in World of Warships. You do not always need to win by simply knocking out the entirety of the enemy team. The enemy team neglected to remember that today, and as a result we were allowed to pick up a victory when it was their game to lose. And we were allowed to do so simply because we crawled into the capture zone as the enemy team moved out of it. And if they had turned around their Izokaze in particular a little bit earlier, they would have been able to prevent the cap, and the Langley's torpedo bombers would have most likely been able to finish us off. So I'm going to remember this from here on, as this game really reminded me of the fact that even when the odds are really stacked against you, you can pick up the win by simply not having to contest those 1 versus 4 or more matches which will pick up those Solar Warrior medals, but simply go to the objective, because sometimes people do forget about it. And so I've been TX141, and if you have enjoyed this video, why not leave a like, comment or subscribe for future World of Warships videos on my channel. But until next time, ladies and gentlemen, take care and fair seas.